What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mike Yourself. In this week's video, we're going to be working on something a little bit different. Check it out. Damn it! How can you not love an intro like that? So what we're going to be doing today on the GSXR here is we're going to be putting in some LED headlights. We're going to add in some rear spools to be able to lift the bike up on the rear end. And we're going to also be lowering it a little bit in the rear, taking it down because it's kind of high. And along with that, because you are lowering the bike, what you want to account for is kind of that lean angle, because as sports bikes are, they don't typically lean over very far. So if you lower it, you're definitely manipulating that. So we've got a special kickstand to address that issue specifically. So let's jump right into it. Enjoy the video. So these are the spools. That's what they're called, right?
Yep.
Spools to put on. You just screw it into the open and available hole, and that'll let you put your jack up and lift the bike.
I have to make the adjustments because I still have it from the 300.
Oh, okay. So you have to adjust your jack there. So we're gonna get this thing up off the air, and we're gonna take a look at that rear suspension so we can see about lowering it. All right, guys. So we're up on the lift here, and we're looking at the plates that need to be removed. And they're down in there.
Can't tell if it's spinning.
And it's not spinning on my side.
No?
Nope. And they don't make it easy to get to. So part of the problem is this second or primary muffler. I don't know what the hell you want to call it. But it's right in the way. So really, you kind of got a couple of options because there isn't a clamp to just be able to remove it. You would either have to remove the rear wheel, squeeze your hand up in there somehow with universal joint type stuff, or remove a whole bunch of fairings. So we're trying that middle option where we're gonna just become human contortionists and work our way in there. All right, so we've got this thing kind of loosened. So we went after this bolt here, which goes to the rear wheel, and I'll tell you, best and worst idea. Best idea because as soon as we got it through, it dropped it out. We have full access. We're good to go there. Worst idea because it dropped this bike very quick, and luckily we didn't have our fingers in any of the ways. So super dangerous. One of the things you might want to do is figure out a way like how to support the bike, and maybe you go through this part here of the frame and kind of, you know, ratchet strap it around and then support it from the ceiling or something like that. But yeah, so now we're gonna have the challenge of figuring out how to lift this in order to put that bracket back on. So we may have to reverse engineer that, so you know, situation, but we'll figure it out. So as soon as we do, I'll bring you back. All right, so we've got our plates off, but I just want to, you know, like I mentioned, we made a bad calculation that could have hurt us, and we just got lucky this time, okay? So flat out made mistakes, and it could have hurt us. We just got lucky. But what, me being in a position where I generally work on cruisers, the jacks go underneath the frame of the bike and lift the frame up, where on these sports bikes, you know, we knew we were doing it, but we weren't thinking through the physics of it, is all of the pressure was sitting on this, which was pushing up on the wheel. So once we broke that bolt loose, of course the bike came down, and by luck I had my flat jack underneath there, which caught it to not let it hit the frame of the bike. But so, you know, so I guess what I'm saying is, if you're working on a sports bike, and you're used to working on cruisers, remember that if you're using one of these things, you're supporting the wheel, the arm, the swing arm. So if you relieve that pressure, it automatically by default, that ain't gonna come up and down. Your wheel won't come up and down like it would on a cruiser. That frame is, the bike is, and that's a whole lot more weight. So heads up, be careful. All right, so here are the plates that we're using to lower the bike. So this is the stock deal. Of course, there's no adjustability there, and this is the aftermarket. So it kind of works almost like a soft tail, where you want to push it out to lower your bike instead of, you know, you would think you want to bring it in, right? So these are a little bit further apart. So if you compare there, you got that. And then these settings are what allow you the different measurements, right? So this one is your stock height, and then you've got 1 inch drop, 2.5 inch, and then you have additional drops here. So this one here is going to be about 1.5 inches, and this one is 2. So actually, so let me make sure I got this right. So stock height, 1 inch, 2.5 inch, 1.5, and this is 2. So this is your furthest, this is your least, because that is stock. So this is kind of a graphic of from the vendor, so you get an idea. Sorry if it's not focused in, but that's how that works. So once you get it in, then you can decide how low do you want your bike to be. So we're gonna go ahead and put these plates in, and we're gonna end up having to lift the bike in a creative way, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here it is, guys. We got a jack on this side on the frame, and on the other side, same thing, another jack on the frame to give us the clearance we need to get to that bracket. But it might be a little bit easier to get it in and out. This isn't going to be in the way because it sits a little higher. But I don't know how sport bikes guy, like if you want to lift the whole bike up and take your wheels off, both front and back, or suspension, I don't know how you guys do it. So I don't know, we're going to go ahead and finish putting this together, but we should be at a place where this is going to be a wrap. We should have measured it before. Bracket is on, jacks are out of the way. Sketchy as hell, but we got it done, and no injuries, like not a drop of blood. So that's good. That's usually like almost a mandatory thing. Somebody's got to get cut. Well, we got that on, and yeah. So if you're wondering, on the other side there is son number 1 helping me out. This is his bike. He doesn't want to get in the cruiser world yet. I don't know what the deal is. I've been trying to talk him into it for like ever, but he just, I don't know. Eventually, he says. We'll see. All right, so we're gonna start buttoning everything up, and then we're gonna jump over to the kickstand, which should be a single bolt or nut. I think it's a nut. Yeah. But we're gonna have to figure out like what's the right adjustment. We actually should have taken a measure before lowering this bike for 2 reasons. One, to see kind of where we started, kind of before and after. But the other reason is we should have looked at the lean angle of the bike. So we're gonna have to wing it. Sometimes that happens. All right, so this is the kickstand we're gonna put on. So this thing is adjustable. I don't know like how far, pretty far. So the way it works is you got all these little notches, and so you just undo your screws, and then you can extend this as long as you want or shorten it to this right here. This is like max short. So I don't know, we might start there since it's already on that level to see how far this thing leans over. But we did a quick test run, and the tilt angle on this wasn't too bad. But if you turn your wheel to the right, which you almost never do on a sport bike, it would tip over relatively easy. And then you could see on the stock, the pad of the kickstand was lifted up like that. So definitely need to address it with this shorty. We're gonna go ahead and pull off that stock one right now and put this bad boy on. All right, so we got the stock off, and let's put them side by side so you can get a little perspective here. It's a huge difference. So this one will bring us a great deal of flexibility to lengthen and shorten. So we're gonna, like I said, we'll put it on, and all we have to do is undo these Allen bolts to adjust it as needed. So we'll figure out what the right height will be, but we can get it mounted up without having to make those adjustments just yet. And yeah, we'll see how easy it is to get on. We did find out the springs that are stock, there's two of them, like an outer and inner one. They're a little bit of a pain to get out, but not too bad. So it's not a hard removal. You got a bolt that comes through the back side, so you got access that from underneath the bike on the opposite side. And then there's a nut that's on the outside, so once you undo that nut, which was a 14 millimeter, and on the back side it's a 17 millimeter to get that bolt out. Yeah, not too hard. So we're gonna go ahead and put this new one on, and we'll look at the angle as it sits. It's probably gonna be sick, crazy leaned over at first, and we'll adjust it from there. Okay guys, we hit a wall with the kickstand. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to put the aftermarket on for two reasons. One is the width of this thing wasn't enough. We were spreading it apart a little bit, but we're still struggling, and it's starting to kind of bend the metal here, and I think that's too much, right? Like, we don't want to over stress it where it'll crack and then the bike falls over, so that's not good. The other part that we noticed is on your stock, you also have that tab there, and what that tab does is it hits the clutch, or the, you know, the little switch there that lets you know that your kickstand's down, which also plays into your ability. If you put it in a first gear, it'll kill the bike, right? Because it don't want you to take off. Now, I know there's a workaround for that. You could just essentially splice the wires together, but we kind of want to do it right, because same thing, if you have this down, you don't want to take off riding. So just for the sake of safety, for those two reasons, the safety switch and the safety of having to manipulate this metal a little bit too much, we were actually getting ready to start grinding the inside of this a little bit, but yeah, we'll forego this for now. We'll find a better option, and until we can find that option, we're going to run the stock. We just need to be careful when parking, so that way we find a good steady surface, and yeah, we'll go from there. All right, so we're getting them headlight bulbs in there. So in order to access those, it's easiest just to remove the dash, and then you can get your hands to the high beam and the low beam. You can see them up front there. Oh my lanta. Woo, that's bright. So you can see the color difference from the LED to these ugly little incandescent bulbs. So a huge difference, and we've got the bulbs to replace those as well. So we're going to swap those out, and that'll be a wrap. Okay guys, so a couple lessons learned in this. You know, I got complacent in that I was used to lifting the frame of a motorcycle rather than lifting it up from the wheel. So because of that, you know, not thinking it through, we could have got hurt today. We're lucky we didn't. So that's something, again, you just need to think through the process as you do it. So you want to avoid kind of running into that situation. Again, you know, do a little bit more homework. That's why I say my work isn't necessarily an exact how-to, because I'm not a certified mechanic, or nor do I work for Suzuki or anybody like this, and I definitely don't do sports bike very often. So learn from my mistakes, right? So do further research. We also found with that kickstand, we had the issues with the fork distance, so that distance in between the two pieces of metal that we were trying to spread apart, and Then we also found the that missing little plate where it was gonna, you know, need to be there to push in on the clutch or kickstand indicator or sensor, whatever you want to call it. And so the concern was, like, we've already compromised with fork, we were compromising with that. So in those situations, that's another recipe for something bad to happen. It may not be disastrous, but it's a potential for something bad to happen. When you make one compromise to another compromise, then it becomes a domino effect. So when you see those opportunities, that's where you got to kind of just go, whoa, you know, hang on, let's take a time out and rethink this. So we went ahead, we kept with the stock kickstand. We just need to make sure we pay attention when we park, that we don't end up on a place where, you know, the ground is gonna offset that leaning, until we can find the appropriate kickstand for this. It was a universal kickstand, so that's part of the problem, is it was made to fit many bikes, and we need something a little bit more specific. So a little bit more homework. We know what the measurements are, and we're gonna dig a little deeper to find the right stand for this bike. But overall, you saw the view. It looks amazing. Those lights are extremely bright. That makes much better viewing at night when you're riding home. And we also learned that those plates kicking things out, it does add a little bit of tension to your chain. It's not a whole bunch, but it's enough where you might want to go back in and make sure your chain is within tolerance. That's something we still need to do on this bike. I just don't have the right socket for it. So until that, you know, we get that done, it's going to be, you know, like no riding on this bike until we get the chain adjusted. Not because it's so extremely bad, but just because we want to make sure we ride it in the safest conditions and within spec. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up. If you enjoy my content, become a subscriber. And if you have some input, like, again, lessons learned that you've run into doing kind of the same process, I would really appreciate the comments below. Let me know, hey Mike, I made that same mistake, or here's how you avoid that, knucklehead. I'm good either way. And until this next video posts, I hope to see you in the wind.